So the first thing I want to ask everybody here, I mean, you've signed up for a training that's an introduction to Foundation Directory Online. So I want to ask if you will put in the chat, have you ever used Foundation Directory Online before? Just a yes or a no in the chat. If you will say yes or no, have you used Foundation Directory Online before? Oh, Peggy says yes. So most people, it looks like, who responded so far have not used this tool before. A couple of people have. Looked at it but not used it. Okay, so have seen it but haven't actually used it. I think a lot of people tend to be in that boat. They've heard of it or it's come across their radar in some way, but maybe they haven't used it before. That's great. So most of us are completely unfamiliar with this tool, at least how to use it. So the next question I would ask y'all is if any of you would be comfortable coming off mute and saying how you about or research funding opportunities at present. Just a couple of words about that. How are you learning about or researching funding opportunities currently?
This is Felicia, and I like using the resource that comes out in the Alliance newsletter. That's one way we do it. And then when we go to conferences and things and we hear about funders, we try to jot those down and try to make contact with those that make sense for our organization. Those are our primary random methods of grant hunting.
Okay, so Alliance communications, some word of mouth. Anyone else?
This is Tracy Barber, Michael from Aiming for Healthy Families. We're mostly federally funded, but I also look through the local resources, United Way, regionally with corporations and different avenues that come either through email or go into coalition meetings like this, and constantly learning about different avenues.
Email communications. Email's a big one, but we get a lot of emails though, right? So it's
right.
That's a hard one to keep track of. Anyone else? Maybe one more person want to share how you're learning about or researching funding opportunities?
Just piggybacking off Tracy, being subscribed to different listservs and newsletters and keeping up with whatever is announced in those.
Okay, that's good to know. So all that is really good to know, and those are maybe word of mouth at conferences. One of those that we heard is a little bit more of an active way, but the others, the newsletters especially, those are leaning towards more passive ways, right? You're not going and doing the research, you're letting it come to you and you skim through, and then if you see something that piques your interest or there's a potential connection, you pursue it further. So what we're going to look at today is a little bit different. This is a potential active way to look at funding opportunities and to learn more about grantors and funders, federal or otherwise, foundations, etc. So here are the goals I want us to think about for today's interaction. We've got till 11 o'clock, so a short period of time to cover a lot of information, and likely we'll want to do some follow-up afterwards, and we'll have opportunities for that. I hope everybody on the call, by the end of this call, will have an understanding of what Foundation Directory Online is as a tool. I would like for us all to understand how to use it effectively for grant research. You won't be an expert, obviously, and a lot of people learn by doing, so we'll make opportunities for everybody to come into the office at some point in time and utilize this and learn a little bit about it actively. And then the last thing, and this is the one of the most important parts, is I want everyone on the call to understand the process for actually accessing Foundation Directory Online. So those are the goals for today. And nested in that's all kinds of good information. So I'm going to start by giving some background information about Foundation Directory Online. Foundation Directory Online is a product. It's a database produced by a company called Candid. Candid, if you've been in the nonprofit space for a while, you've probably heard of GuideStar. You may be familiar with that resource. GuideStar is also a database. And their companions, Foundation Directory Online, I'll call it FDO, is a companion to GuideStar. GuideStar is a database of information about nonprofits, like y'all, direct service providers, and the like. Foundation Directory Online is a database of information about funders, grant makers, federal agencies that provide funding. So they kind of go hand in hand, right? They host information about these two sides of the same coin, the funders, the network of funders, the organizations that fund, and then the organizations that are seeking funding to do the work that they do. So today we're talking about Foundation Directory Online. Foundation Directory Online FDO is a very powerful research tool. You can do a lot in it to learn about grant opportunities, to learn about grantors and do research about foundations, and decide whether foundations that you learn about are potential prospects for your own fund development plans. So that's what we're going to look at today. To access, just a little more context before we look at the tool. To access Foundation Directory Online at present, you would come to the Alliance's office. We are a site host for Candid for Foundation Directory Online, and we host that tool here in our, what we call our computer lab. It's 2 computers here in our office where we can log in and allow folks to utilize that resource and do some self-guided research. And then, of course, I'm always here, or our staff members here to help with questions. So to book time after this appointment, if you ever wanted to utilize FDO, once we go through this tutorial, I'll share my bookings link, and you can find some available time and set up some time to come into the office, and we can look at the tool together in person. Any questions before I turn to sharing my screen and we actually look at what this thing looks like and go through kind of what it is in depth and do a sample search and look into it?
Of course, so we will not be able to access the Foundation Directory from our own computers. We have to come to the office.
At present, that is correct. The contract that we have with Candid allows us to offer the FDO through our computers on site. There is one exception to that. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. If you are working for a nonprofit, you have a GuideStar profile, whether you know that you do or you don't. You have a GuideStar profile that Candid automatically creates for you when you register with the IRS. If you enter a certain amount of information into your GuideStar profile, you achieve a certain level of seal of transparency. So it's like completing a LinkedIn profile, basically. And the more information you put into it, the more higher credentialed that profile is. If you reach a gold level seal of transparency, one of the perks of that is that you receive a year's access to Foundation Directory Online. So because Candid manages these 2 different databases, filling out your nonprofit profile in one in Candid, earning a gold seal of transparency, that gives you a perk, a benefit, and a year's access to the other, to Foundation Directory Online. And that you could use on your own computer.
That's good to know, because last year I did reach the gold seal, but I didn't realize that was available to me.
It is, and so you can do that. You can do that again this year. So the promotion runs on an annual basis, a calendar year, but I have not seen yet that Candid didn't do the promotion in the calendar year. So it's ongoing through 2025. So if you maintain your profile at that gold seal of transparency, you should be able to claim that 1 year of
Okay.
FDO,
Thank you.
Foundation Directory Online. So highly recommend. We'll talk, there will be another training another day about GuideStar, but highly recommend that everybody take the time and complete your GuideStar profile to the gold level seal of transparency. Virginia, you have a question?
I do. Good morning to everyone. Sorry I was late. We're actually at a platinum um
Very good.
area, for 2024. Did I understand you said they have not released the 2025 yet?
The promotion, you mean?
Right. You know how they for the seal, every year you get this where you can move into the next year. And you're right, adding more information. So I'm just asking, I know we are now at Platinum 2024. So the directory is available to us?
Yeah, so you've reached platinum. So everybody, I'll just outline really quickly the seals so that we're all on the same page. If we're unfamiliar, so in GuideStar, your profile can be ranked bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. So what Virginia's telling us is that they're top notch. They're up here at the top of platinum
know
level
about
seal of
that.
transparency, which is great.
Yay!
Very good. And that would earn you that promotion, that 1 year's access to Foundation Directory Online, because you've met or surpassed gold. I'll send everybody, I'm making a note now, I'll send everybody on the call a link to the information for that promotion. It's simple enough where you reach out to an email and let them know that the process is outlined anyway. It's very simple to claim that
Okay.
promotion.
Okay.
So I'll send that
Thank
information.
you.
Making a note. Okay. Any other questions before we dive in?
How do I verify my email? It keeps saying
Uh,
unverified. I don't know what that means.
On GuideStar?
No, on here.
Oh,
When
on
I
here? I
close.
don't know on here.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's a problem though. I think
Okay.
you were just fine.
Okay.
All right, well, what I'm gonna do, y'all, is go ahead and share my screen then. So I won't be able to see y'all for a minute. Again, if you have a question while I can't see you, just come off mute and chime in. But what we're gonna do is move over to actually look at FDO, do a demo search and kind of poke around in it, and I'll keep talking as I'm going. Would someone come off mute and let me know if you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
We can.
Yeah.
Good, okay. Perfect. So this is what you would see at the beginning of your search in Foundation Directory Online. It's a generic search bar. It looks kind of like Google, right? Most of you probably have experience with Google or some sort of search platform, and you have realized by now that you just enter a generic search in a search bar, you get generic search results, right? And you have to scan through all of that and kind of make some sense of it. So we're going to do two different versions of a search here and look at how the different results come out. But what are we looking for in this platform? Like I said, Foundation Directory Online is a database of information about funders, grant makers, federal agencies that offer funds. So when we're doing a search in Foundation Directory Online, that's what we're looking for. We're looking up profiles of grant makers and funders whose funding priorities align to what work we're doing as a nonprofit. That's our goal. So if I'm working at a nonprofit whose mission is related to food security, I'm going to put in some search parameters here that relate to my work and my location. And this database is going to return results of organizations, funders, who fund that work in my geographic area. So that's kind of what we're using here. We're looking up profiles for potential funders for the work that we do and doing some research about those funders. There are also ways that we can look at currently open requests for proposals, but there isn't at present a way to sort through those so that you can see, you can sort them in as much detail. So we'll look at that. We'll look at that last. So let's see. I'm going to give us a demo search here using exactly what I just said. And I'm not going to use, I'm going to start by using this general search. I'm going to say I'm looking for funding related to food security. So I just did a basic search looking for funding related to food securities and food security, excuse me, and what is returned is all kinds of information. Across the top here, you have these headers with big numbers. Those big numbers are intimidating to me, and I want to narrow them down. But what are they to start? What this system is telling me, what this database is telling me, is that there are 17,384 grant makers who fund in some way related to food security. That's a lot. That is vastly more than you can make sense of. No one on this call can go through 17,384 grant makers and decide which of those 17,000 you should approach, right? Or that connect to the work that you do. That's an overwhelming amount of info. But it's good to know. It's also telling us that there's 141,000 grants related to this topic, 12,000 recipients of grants related to this topic, and then some information about the tax forms related to this topic. That's less useful to us at this stage. The reason why I say, and I've mentioned it, but the reason why I say this is not particularly useful, the way that we've just done this, is because there's too much information. None of us, like I say, can sort through this information. So we want to do a search that is not so broad. We want to do something that is a little more specific to narrow down our results into something that is manageable. So instead of doing a broad, basically like a Google search, we would click over here in the advanced search and filters and do an advanced search with some more specific parameters, some more specific details about what our organization does and where and what funding we're looking for. So our subject area for our search remains food security, right? Our organization, our hypothetical organization, does work around food security. Where are we all based? We're all based in Mississippi. I think everyone on the call is based in Mississippi. So for our geographic focus, where will the funding be used? We're going to put Mississippi. And we're going to start, I'm not going to add any other details there, but there are other options we could use. We could put some information about who we serve, right? Do we serve a population of at-risk youth, or people living with HIV, or people of a particular religious background, or people in the Northeast portion of the state or something? We could add that information. We could add information about the exact organization we're looking for, the exact funder. We could add information about the location of these funders. We could, instead of saying where the funding will be used, where is it coming from? Maybe we only want funding from foundations in Mississippi. I wouldn't think that would be the case. I think we'd be willing to accept funding from foundations anywhere, but maybe not. Each of those parameters that you put in, every time you add a new detail, it narrows down your search. The results are going to get narrower and narrower, right? You're eliminating other possible search results. So we're going to leave it at food security in Mississippi and see what our search results come back. This is much better. This is a much better, much more manageable list of information. So what this is telling us, what these search results are telling us, is that there are 44 grant makers who fund or have funded from 2003 to 2025, right there, our time frame, who have funded in Mississippi work related to food security. I always suggest to people who are using this tool to try to get the number of grant makers under 100. Why is that? Again, it goes back to that other piece of information I mentioned. The bigger and the more information that you have to sift through, the harder it is to get through that and make sense of it. We could look at 44 different grant makers' profiles and decide and make a determination, maybe these 10 are actually suited for us to learn a little more about an approach with an application or a letter of interest or a letter of inquiry. Whatever. But if you've got 200, 250, 300, you're not going to have time necessarily to adequately evaluate whether you should approach them, those grant makers or not. So this is a good search result. This is a good set of search results. What I want to do next is show you a profile for one of these grant makers. So I've scrolled down and I'm seeing some of the grant makers listed here. I'm going to click View All so we can look at the whole list of all 44. And here they all are. Some of them you've probably heard of. Some of them you probably have not heard of. Every time I do a search in Foundation Directory Online, I learn about a few new organizations, a few new foundations or agencies that did something I did not know that they did in the federal government. The first one listed here is the United States Food and Nutrition Service. Some people don't want to accept federal funding or they don't want to go through the process. The last month has shown maybe why that is contentious for some people. It can be tricky, right? It can be volatile depending on the politics of an administration. So if that was something you wanted not to see, you could exclude federal funders from your search. They have a tab here to exclude that so that you'd only see foundation grant makers and private grant makers. Each listing here, each of these grant makers has a listing and it shows some basic information. So let's use the McKnight Foundation as an example. As their name, it shows the city, state, and country where they're located. It shows their total assets here, the total assets of the foundation. Their total giving, and that is in the last fiscal year that they reported to the IRS. So this is the amount that the McKnight Foundation gave last year, last fiscal year. And this is the amount that they have funded as it relates to our search parameters. So they funded $2,377,000 toward food security. Food security in Mississippi specifically, excuse me. So if I'm doing the search, I'm interested in the McKnight Foundation. I'm going to click on their profile and look into them a little more. I want to learn some more about them. Every funder in this database has a profile that looks like this and has this basic information, this arrangement. If you like graphs, the first set of information is graphical representations of some key things about this foundation that you can learn at a glance. What areas they fund in is on the left. You can interact with this. Click on it and do some digging. You can see how much they funded these priority areas. Go back to these graphs. There's a map of where they fund and have funded in the past. This is also interactive. So if you wanted to interact with Mississippi and see, okay, how many grants have they funded into Mississippi?
Okay.
You can click here. Oh, I can't click on Mississippi for some reason. Ordinarily, you'd be able to click on Mississippi. I'm not sure why this map is not letting me. But you can interact with the state. Let's say Minnesota. You can click on Minnesota and actually see by county where they funded in those counties. So you can see, okay, most of their funding is going to Hinds County, or most of it's going to DeSoto County, or most of it's going to Tallahatchie County, or whatever. Learn really detailed information about where their funding priorities have been in the past. You can even go so far as to, let's do one more example. We are looking at, let's go back to Minnesota. If you click on the county, you can even go so far as to see what organizations in that county have been funded. Why might that be useful? If you're operating in Hinds County and you're working on food security, and you're a new organization, or maybe if you're not a new organization, it could be helpful to know what other organizations are doing that work, like what you're doing. Some you may be aware of, some you're not. But you also could learn about what organizations have a relationship with this particular funder already. You can learn from them. Maybe you have a contact there. You can learn from them how they approached their application, etc. And then the last graph shows you how they fund how large their grants are, how big the grants are on average. This is an important piece of information to know. If you're trying to fund a $2 million program and this foundation only typically funds $5,000 or $10,000 grants, it's probably not a match, right? At a glance, you know you're not going to fund a $2 million program with a $5,000 grant. It may work for something else, right? It may work for some other component of what you're doing, but it may not fit that program. So that's good info. And then each profile for all funders has these various sections. It shows the grants that they've made as it relates to food security in some way. So you can explore those, you can click into them and look at each grant. So let's just pick one. This one's in Heartland, Vermont. You can actually look at the grant information here and learn, okay, the McKnight Foundation in 2018 gave $150,000 to increase the adoption of innovations in crop supply chains to build soil for productivity and improved water quality. If that's work that you're doing, this is great information to know, right? You're learning what organization has approached them for this particular kind of funding. So you can look at all the grants that this foundation has made in your particular area of interest. You can also learn, about their funding priorities, their funding interests here in list form, about this funder, other funders to consider. If any of you have Spotify or have interacted with any technology, honestly, there's almost always a For You section that uses an algorithm to say, based on what you listen to or what you like, here are some similar things. That's what this section is. Based on your search parameters and your interest in this funder, you might also consider approaching these particular funders. They fund similar work, have similar priorities. So it's kind of curated for you. And then everyone's profile, all the foundation's profiles, grant makers' profiles, has information about their application process. So it'll outline the foundation will email to decline requests, etc. It tells you when they meet as a board, when you should approach them, or how. So through an online grant application you'd find on their website, and how long it takes to final notification. Every grant maker is a little bit different. Some of them give more detail. This one doesn't have a great deal of detail, but it's basically telling you to go to their website and complete a grant application. But everyone, will have a little bit more or less information. And this information becomes really applicable once you've done some research using Foundation Directory Online and identified whether this is a funder worth pursuing or not, right? If they funded work like the work that you were doing in the past. And then of course you can learn about their financials, who works there in terms of the leadership and that sort of thing. And then the communications that they've put out in the past or been a part of in the past, like articles and that sort of thing. So that's a grant maker's profile in Foundation Directory Online. They all look exactly the same. Their website is always here at the top for easy access. So if you decided, you know what, yeah, the McKnight Foundation is exactly the organization I need to approach, so I'm gonna go ahead and submit a grant application, you can open up their website and go from there. What I love about this resource is if you find that this that this grant maker is one that you'd like to learn more about. You'd like to do a little more digging or, ask someone that you know if they have a connection there or whatever. You can actually email yourself this entire profile. So it'll export out of Foundation Directory Online and send to you as a PDF in your email using this little envelope function here. You just click, enter your information, and it'll email to you. It'll send exactly what we're looking at here as a PDF. Another way that you could do that here from our office is maybe you keep a list of, from your search results, a list of foundations or grant makers that you're interested in approaching or you want to learn more about. You could also select several of them and do the same thing. Email yourself several profiles at once so that you can follow up, you can do a little more digging, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a lot of people come in and do that. So a lot of people will come in, do some research here, and then send themselves these profiles to do their follow-ups or complete their application or submit a letter of interest or inquiry, et cetera. So those are the basics of how to use this tool, what it looks like, et cetera. And you can repeat this again and again for different priorities and different kinds of searches. And I'm always here to, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a minute. I'm always here in the office to help folks, to facilitate people's research in this way, or help people overcome roadblocks, et cetera. And you can refine those searches all kinds of ways. If you only wanted to look for within a certain time period or multiple different subject areas, you can do all that kind of stuff. So I tell everyone that this is an extremely powerful research tool. It kind of knocks out having to scan the internet or hope that you hear about something or read through, a lot of emails when you know what it is, the work that you do, you know what you do, you know where you do it, and you know what you need funded. You can go directly to this tool and look for organizations who are funding that work and figure out the right approach. There, Patricia, you've got a hand up.
Yes, thank you. Doing the search, can you narrow it down to if they do requests? Can you just openly submit a grant to them, proposal to them, or they have to request it, RFP? Is there a way on there to do that?
You're asking like how they would take an application.
Right.
In other
Do they
words,
have a grant cycle? Is that all on that profile?
As far as I understand it, there's not a way to do a search based on what their application process is. Now, you can, all that information will be on their profile and then more information details on their website. Like some of their profiles will say, please submit a letter of inquiry before submitting an application. And then you'd go to their website and there's the submission window, submission guidelines, that sort of thing. But in your search, I don't think that there is a way to filter out organizations that want you to submit an application first versus a letter of intent or that sort of thing. That would take, looking at their profile and determining that. Good question. Any other questions? Okay.
It was very helpful because I've seen the online directory. I just never used it. One, it also tells me that I have to get, because Candid been sending me emails about adding more information. So I just have to kind of organize myself and get stuff done.
And that's the challenge we all face, isn't it, Kimberly? That is, that's a big challenge, but it is worth it. It is definitely worth it. And I'll say two things about this, two things related to that. The first is that to take advantage of that promotion we mentioned at the very beginning, and to get your organization's GuideStar profile to the gold level seal of transparency, first of all, is well worth it. Second of all, it does not take an extremely long period of time. It takes probably a total of 3 to 4 hours max. It could take a lot less time depending on what information you have immediately available to you. Most of the information you would input in your profile is stuff you would have on your website It's stuff you're going to have in the forms you submit to the IRS. It's stuff that you will have in your strategic plan. You have the information already. It's just consolidating it to put in that profile. The same way you know your resume and you have all that information, but you've got to go and organize it on your LinkedIn profile, right? It just takes a little bit of time to curate it. So, but well worth it. And the other thing I would say is that Foundation Director, there are several grant research tools out in the world, and through membership in the Alliance, you get access to some of the different ones. I've used some of those different research tools, and to date, this is the one that to me has the best user experience. It's the simplest, it's the easiest, it looks the neatest, it's the easiest on the eyes, it's simple to navigate. So, you know, I encourage people, if you have used grant research tools in the past but haven't used this one, try this one and see if it works for you, because it has worked well for me in the past. It's so much easier than some of the things I've encountered before.
I think too, it's important that you slim down parameters. So often when we go into these research tools, we have such a wide range of stuff that you're looking at and you get frustrated in trying to search for. So I appreciate you saying that about the parameters and setting them. Some of those other tools, also you can, you know, set it to where you will get a notification if that particular parameter that you're looking for and they're doing grants for that, for your region or for your state or for your area of service.
And in your this is not so much about Foundation Directory Online, but about Candid. Candid does send out I've forgotten what it's called formally, but it's a newsletter too about
Yes,
funding
it's
opportunities.
way too many.
But it's a lot. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that if you're signed up for the Alliance's communications, one thing you'll see is that I spend a lot of time, this is one of the areas I focus on here at the Alliance. I spend a lot of time going through those opportunities and sorting out, if it's California specific, it does not come to y'all in our Alliance communications. If it's, you know, international, but not here in Mississippi, it does not come to y'all. So I spend a lot of time going through theirs and other newsletters that I get too, and trying to put that together to make a meaningful newsletter related to funding for y'all too. So if you're not on those communications, please sign up, because you will, some of it won't be relevant to you. If you're not working in arts, the arts one won't be relevant, but some of them will be. So it's a quicker scan, I think, going through the Alliance's opportunities, funding opportunities newsletter than going through 6, 7, 8 different ones, which is not to say you shouldn't use the other ones, but because we don't see everything, but still know that one, if you're going to go through any of them, you should definitely make sure you go through the Alliances. Somebody came off mute. Do we have another question?
Michael, will you review that promotion you mentioned? I must have missed it at the beginning.
Yes, I will. So, and I'm going to send out the information, how to take advantage of it. I'll pull up the information from Candid's website. I'll send that to everyone. But what it is that every nonprofit has a GuideStar profile, and the more information that you input on that GuideStar profile, the higher level seal of transparency is what it's called. You are assigned. It's like a badge of honor in a way, because of the information you've put in. And so if you obtain a gold level seal of transparency, it's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. By obtaining the gold seal of transparency, you automatically have the ability to take advantage of what's called the Go for the Gold promotion. And it gives you some other smaller benefits, but the main thing that people find great value in is that promotion gives you a year's access to Foundation Directory Online for your organization. So you would have access to that through your computer to do some research. Tracy,
We're
you're
on there. We're on there. We just never fully access the benefits of it. So work with my finance director to do that.
Yeah, highly recommend
You
doing
keep-
that. And there are some other things. I've forgotten off the top of my head which level it is, but at one of the levels you also can get it, I think, a year of Apple Pay, a year subscription to Apple Pay. If you take payment, if you take payments, that may be useful to you too.
Okay. Thank you. This has been most helpful, Michael.
Good, I'm glad. What other questions, y'all?
To get a chance to meet with you virtually, just send your email requesting or go on your calendar. How,
That is the perfect question, Peggy. So what's next is the question. Y'all have seen how to use Foundation Directory Online. Now, how do you actually use it? Like I said, we host it here in our office, in our computer lab. So I'm dropping a link to the bookings page in the chat. You can use that if you're comfortable using that to book time to come into the office and utilize the Foundation Directory Online tools. It'll show you when it's available and when it's not. If there's not a time available, that means somebody's in here. When nobody's, if you book a time at 1 o'clock and nobody's here all afternoon, you're welcome to stay all afternoon. We just use this bookings page to make sure that the 2 computers we have don't have 5 people waiting, and that somebody here is on staff, somebody on staff is here. So if you're not comfortable with the bookings page, you're welcome to reach out to me by email, and I can make sure we get a time set up. And I'll put my email in the chat now.
now I have access to it. We have Platinum Seal. I do have access to it, so I've been trying to practice on it. So I wanted to do it virtually because we're 200 miles away from you. I don't want to have to drive to Jackson, and I could do it online. So that's why I asked if I could book it virtually rather than coming into the office.
Yes, absolutely. If anyone on this call, again, this is where you use my email. If anyone on this call wants to do a little bit more individualized instruction on this, reach out to me by email. Maybe you got the gist of it, but you want to ask some more specific questions to your work or whatever it may be. Reach out to me, by email, and we'll set up some time and we'll go through the tool or whatever would be helpful to y'all. I'm very happy to help in any way.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, set up time, like I say, to come into the office. If you're able to come into the office and use this, I'm here all the time, not always here, but I'm here most of the time. So if you're here in the office doing some self-guided research, but you run into a wall, you are always welcome to come knock on my door and I can come help you out. Trying to think if there's any other booking related information. I don't think so. I get a notification anytime someone books on that page. So if for some reason there's time listed as available and it's not, I'll respond to you, but I'd respond anyway, just to confirm. So
Where are y'all actually located in Jackson, Michael?
question, I'm gonna type that in the chat too. We are at 2600 Lakeland Terrace. If you are familiar with Lakeland Drive, when you get off the interstate, we are behind the Shell station, right there off the interstate, or just down from the Ag Museum. A lot of people know that as the reference. We're maybe a 10th of a mile past the Ag Museum, going east.
Okay. And what was that suite number?
It is 2600 Lakeland Terrace, Suite 100.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I kind of have an advantage. I have in-laws that live down there, so I'm down to Jackson regularly.
Well, next time you're here, then you definitely need to stop in.
Right.
Or,
We
or,
will.
or just
I will.
pop in. We also love when people just come to say hello too. So it doesn't have to be for research for y'all to come visit.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you give us the date again for the conference that Mississippi
Yes.
Alliance is having?
I sure will. The date for our conference is April 25th. And if you'll give me just 2 seconds, I will send y'all a link. If you haven't registered and you're interested in registering, I'll give y'all the link to do that. Right here. So that's the link to register for our conference on April 25th. It's here in Jackson at the Jackson Convention Complex. And it's a full day. I think it's 9 o'clock is the start time. Registration starts at 8, and it'll go until around 4 o'clock. The next thing I would say, so we've talked about, I mentioned GuideStar today. Next month, we have a similar version. I'm leading another version of this training, but we're talking about GuideStar. So if you're in this room today and that's unfamiliar to you, or maybe it's familiar to you, but you don't know if you've done it right, or whatever, if you have questions about it, we're going to talk about GuideStar in March, and look at what it takes to complete a profile and where to get that information. And then, of course, in the meantime, if you have questions, you can reach out to me and or DeLorean or anyone on staff to help y'all along the way, because we want to make sure that y'all have the resources that you need. Whitney, do you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I came off mute.
That's okay. All right, y'all. Well, you have the bookings page. You've got my email. You've got our address. You've got the registration for the conference. I am going to send a follow-up email with the promotion information on that promotion. I'll include these links in that as well. I'm also going to send y'all a very brief survey. If y'all will, please complete that survey. The main reason is that y'all work for nonprofits. You understand this. It's helpful to know what you need, right? It helps us to know whether the things that we do at the Alliance are meeting your needs, or if they're not, and if they're not, how they can better address those needs. So if you will take, I think it's like 3 minutes to complete that survey. We'd appreciate it very much. And beyond that, y'all, you get 7 minutes back in your day to go have an early lunch. How about it? My stomach's growling, so it just said thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Whoop,
You're
whoop.
very welcome. Bye, everybody. Y'all have a good day.
Bye, thank you.